Okay, we're live. Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview. Good morning. This is Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. So today we take another journey into startup blog and agile thinking. So we'll go in depth into an article on Examiner.com titled "4 Ways Agile Entrepreneurs Optimize Time" with Taffy Williams, Examiner writer and entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO of Colonial TDC, who will discuss his thoughts on this article and more. So good morning, Taffy, and welcome to another Startup Blog Insights for December 2014, live from North Carolina, right?
Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Looks pretty good out there. I guess it's getting to winter, so it's cold outside now, huh?
We've got temperatures that are supposed to hit high in the 50s today, so it's not horrible. We did have frost on my newspaper this morning, so it's cool enough to do that.
Oh,
and
I see. So,
and the sun is out. We have a clear day, so and then as you well know, I was out in California for 2 weeks and 2 weeks of rain, of which you guys have the monsoon coming.
yeah, it's going to be hitting today, so
I'll, I'll
but
send
it's
you a
no.
pair of water wings for the holidays.
Sounds good. I mean, it's nowhere near the snowstorms we get back there, so I feel sometimes we're a bit spoiled, even though we say there's a lot of rain. So, but anyway, let's get into this. So this month's article on Examiner.com, you can have 4 steps that agile entrepreneurs optimize time. So you kind of say that time is valuable, time kind of optimized by planning and agile thinking, and in the article, you have a quote here: agile thinking encourages seeking a goal by exploring more than one path and not being stuck repeating the things over and over simply because it worked the first 9 times. I guess it's almost that thing about insanity, right? We talk about, but anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
and not being so locked in, and looking for alternatives and opportunities, and recognizing that as times change and situations change, that you have to change.
Mm, yeah, that's true. So, let's go through the 4, and you could comment on each one, and then we'll discuss the whole thing as a whole further. So the first one, study and learn. Any route to a goal or destination likely has multiple paths. Sometimes interim steps are adjustable and have alternate paths. Only by understanding objectives and routes can one identify the best alternate paths. So, I study by observation and doing things in so many ways. But what have you done to do study and learn, and maybe give some examples?
And we oftentimes will spend a lot of time talking to the physicians that we would be interacting with the product. People that might be in clinical trial, we might talk to the regulatory people. We would look at the research, the marketing individuals. We try to understand that as optimally as we can, and then try to orchestrate a series of studies that would be the most optimal for getting the indication approvals that you want for a product. And so by going through that process and understanding what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and how it needs to match up with the marketing group, that's part of the learning process and part of the next step, which is the planning process. In terms of taking a trip, just going someplace. You can hop in your car and just punch the GPS stuff in and tell it to take you there, or you have actually looked at the map in advance, trying to look and see how you're going to go, where it's going to, what's going to happen in case the GPS is giving you a wrong turn, or in case there's a roadblock or some other kind of thing. So you can actually apply this to about everything, and you're going to bring up that one topic at the end, and I'll tell you how I failed on every one of these. So recently.
Well, I think we all have experiences on a daily basis in one of these things that we're going to talk about today, and if not 2 or 3 or all of them. So anyway, let's go to the next one, number 2, called plan. It's always essential to plan, otherwise you'll never know where you'll end up. So planning helps cement concepts and identify at least one possible route to the end. making alternative paths is where you begin to develop skills that maybe make you more agile. Alternatives and preparation help build the needed confidence to make a shift in the direction when needed. So anyway, let's talk about that one.
Well, let's say that you're going to manufacture a product and you're going to do it in-house. And your team puts together a plan for putting that, but all of a sudden, as part of that, you find that maybe there's an alternative to 3 places where you could go external to have a certain part made, and maybe it will save you some time, especially if they're doing it in parallel. Maybe you find that there are a couple of places where hurdles can take place, and so you look at those in particular, because if you fail at that one point, or if it slows you down, you may not reach your end goal. So suppose that a manufacturer, alternative manufacturer, will handle something, and maybe you have them, and you see who comes in first, and you use that to get to the end point. I mean, your ultimate goal is to be as optimal as you can in reaching your endpoint, and so by looking for alternatives to reach that endpoint. And another one is, let's suppose that you need to raise money, and that in raising money, instead of just going out on the road talking to venture capitalists, you say, well, maybe I can borrow against my house. Maybe I can get a from someplace because of the type of program that I have. Maybe I can talk to some angel investors, and you have 4 or 5 different things, and you pick the 3 or 4 you think the best work. You may decide that in your planning, it would be better for you to do 2 of them or 3 of them in parallel, hoping one of them comes through.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and it may be like I said, a combination thereof. I know you and I have talked about that on previous things where, it may not be A or B, it may be A plus B, something like that, Well,
it can be. I mean, I was speaking to a contractor who had bought an old building that was going to turn it into condos, and I ran into him at a venue for a game where it was directly across the street from where the unit was. And I said, when are you going to build this? He says, the bank won't let me do it. And I said, well, I don't understand. I says, you got the building and you got collateral and you got your other business. He says, they say I don't make enough to be able to loan me what they want. So I said, well, how much will they give you? He says, I never asked them. If it turns out to be they'll give you, 3/4 of what you want, and maybe we can find a way to get you the other quarter. And he says, oh, maybe I should ask them. Okay, there are ways. It comes from not thinking about that. Maybe there's an alternative that you want. You got too locked in on trying to do one thing and borrow it all.
Okay. All right. Let's move to number 3 here. It's called experiment. So what you say here is skill and knowledge is helpful, but occasionally experimenting with alternatives can provide new insight and direction. So this is kind of like the ability to do and iterate, right?
Yeah, if you've gone out and you created 5 companies, you may not be able to create the 6th company exactly the same way, but you probably know where some of the potholes are that you don't step in. Now that may save you some time, save you some energy by not going through things that you are absolutely certain will not work. And if you've never done it before, you don't know what's not going to work. If you don't have access to mentors, advisors who can guide you, and just because somebody's told you it doesn't work doesn't mean that it won't work. It just means that maybe you want to think of it differently and be sure that you monitor it. Maybe you want to jettison that as an idea if it turns out that you've been counseled that it might not, and you're starting to see that earlier. So there are things you can do. The ability to make adjustments in your process and look for where something isn't working quite the way you thought that it was, but have an alternate route can save you time. So if you're moving along and you're doing everything in linear fashion to make a product, and all of a sudden you find that one of the places where a hurdle was, you had didn't realize it, and you had an alternate way to produce that particular component, you can save a lot of time. And so this experimentation of going through it and having other things take place as you reach hurdles or whatever may help you resolve problems.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know in a lot of ways is sometimes fast iteration even helps me because I could actually converge a little faster because if especially if I don't really know where I'm going in a little way, in a funny way, So.
Well, one of the things I say about software is that fail often and fail fast. I mean, when you fail in developing a software program, you lost or failing in development or something, where you have a lot of application. And if you're developing software and you find this approach is not going to work or that one, you can do it fast and then do it. You can move more rapidly through the process.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, let's go to number 4. It's called adjust. It's usually not possible to pick the perfect direction or activity on the first try. Monitoring and adjusting can help improve on a mediocre plan. We were just talking about that, resulting in improved performance and greater return on investment. So this is pretty good advice because we all know when a plan is mediocre. At least I feel I know that. When I'm not very comfortable, I'm really not sure, and that's probably in a lot of cases. But it has many risks. What's that?
Yeah, you just don't always know it's going to be mediocre. It looks really good to begin with, and it's not until you're in the middle of it that you realize this thing is awful. And it's like I was telling you before, here's a wonderful example of how I failed on each one of these points recently, okay? And it's a household repair job.
Okay.
So my wife comes into me and she says, the light fixture in the laundry room is flickering. And I'm thinking, okay, it's fluorescent bulbs. Fluorescent bulbs are burned out, right? I'm going to replace them. So I go to the store and I buy 2 fluorescent bulbs and they come back and I put them in. And it's still flickering. I says, oh no, it's the ballast. So I now figure out how to take the thing apart without removing it from the thing. Look where the ballast was. I says, I'll just buy a ballast and put it in, and then look all the wires coming out of the ballast. And I says, I'm not replacing all those wires. I'm replacing the whole fixture. So I go to the store and I look and I find an LED fixture and I look at the back of it because I know enough to know that the way you mount the things is sometimes critical and can be problematic. And I look at the back of it and it says just go to the metal box where the wires come in, and I've done this 1,000 times and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be just like that. And I haven't removed this thing from the ceiling yet, right? So I'm expecting to remove it and find a metal box in there where the wires come through, the mounting box and the electrical stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I buy a special device that's for LEDs. I was going to put it in. I said, this will be nice. It'll give me some money and, give a brighter light. So I pull the fixture down, and they had mounted it with toggle bolts in the ceiling, and I'm saying, okay. And I says, well, I can find a way to mount this with different kind of anchors, and I can, even though the holes don't line up, I'll figure that out. And look, I pull it off, and there's no metal box. I just brought the wires through the ceiling. So the wires there's no metal box. I got a way to mount this thing, and I says, I'm not hooking this up above without having it in a metal box because there's a potential protection you get from fire and other kinds of stuff by putting it in the box.
Absolutely.
I said, well, I'm not doing that. So I had to take that back. Now, this is my second trip to the Lowe's. So I've now gone to Lowe's twice to buy. Now I bought the unit that looks the same as the one in the ceiling. So I pull that unit down. I already pulled it down. I've taken the toggle bolts off, which requires now I have to get new toggle bolts, but the holes don't line up. Right. Not only that, there's a special plastic piece that goes through all the wire through. So this plastic piece broke. I was taking it out because I was going to reuse that one. I went to Lowe's, but they didn't have it look the same. So I'm now on a ladder 9 feet off the floor, trying to figure out how to remount this thing, get the things lined up, put the holes back in there, and I got both toggle bolts in, but one of them pulled through and made the hole too large, and I couldn't use it again. So I'm putting new holes in. So now I'm thinking, okay, I got one barely holding on one end. The wire is holding the thing up. On the other side, I haven't got a new anchor in there, and I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do because I now got a hole in the ceiling where I was going to mount it, and I'm trying to figure out how to deal with this. So I finally find a different kind of anchor to put in there on the other side. So I'm on the ladder trying to screw this thing in 9 feet off the floor, okay? Now, keep in mind, all this time, I had the phone number for an electrician that I really like, and I could have called. I could have done this in 20 minutes. And I'm sweating because I had come back and taken a shower from the gym. So, and I had already been cleaned up. So I'm like soaking wet. So 5 trips to the store to pick up parts. And 4 hours later, I finally get this thing mounted, right? It's a 20-minute job. Now, planning. Did I study and learn? Did I look and see that the mounting wasn't going to work and understand how it was mounted up there in the first place? No. So I did not study and learn. I didn't do it. Planning. Well, I said, I've done this 1,000 times before. I assumed I'd be able to do it this time. And I figured that rather than plan anything and look at what I had to do, I knew enough to be able to go figure this out. And I didn't ask for any advice or help from anybody, right? So planning was pretty bad. Then experimentation. Boy, this whole thing was filled with an experimentation because it started off as a mediocre plan in the first place. But originally, I didn't realize that. I've done house repairs for 30 years. This one just turned out to be totally different. And as far as adjustment, boy, this one was nothing but adjustment the entire time. And by the time I was done, I was like, I can't believe I went through and did that. So it happens. It happens at home. It happens at work. It happens everywhere. And where you can run into really big trouble is by thinking you actually know what it is you're going to be doing and not having paid the proper attention to make sure that what you thought you knew was accurate.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have similar stories, but it's you know, uh, beyond all this, assumptions really play a big role in a lot of things that sometimes that us and you and me type of thing, right? I mean, it's just that, you're assuming sometimes that this job should be pretty straightforward, but it obviously isn't because you hadn't planned, as you said, and as you not planned, the number 4 of the adjustments become more iterative, as you just pointed out, right?
And you waste a lot of time. And so it is the incorrect assumptions that can lead to you believing that you can do something in a particular way, and only when you find out your assumptions were incorrect. And this comes back to study and learn. And you still are going to make assumptions in every process. And if you don't start now asking yourself and questioning what you're doing, you're going to miss things. And so this is where the plan, study and learn, miss less. Plan, miss, you try to organize to get around those things that you're certain of. Experiment, you're going to hit problems almost most of the time, and then make adjustments.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
You can improve your utility of time by optimizing those, and you still may lose some time, but hopefully you'll lose less time.
Right. Well, anyway, that was great. And the really good advice is you always do every month, and just let everyone know out there, we're going to be doing is top 10 of the year coming up right before the end of the year. So please watch for that on this channel. But since we last talked, some special event happened. I think I saw a book launch event for your book. Is that true?
You did. November, Think Agile came out, the book. And I've had some articles that shown up in quite a number of places now, as a ways to help introduce the book. I've had some interviews and things of that sort. And there's a lower corner down there, thinkagilebook.com is the website where you can find places to buy it. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Amacom, and Books A Million. There's probably 12 different retail vendors that sell, at a minimum, that sell this book, or you can get it through them. So it's out, and I'm just hoping people find it useful.
Have you been getting any specific questions from people about the books yet, or is this a little bit too early with that?
I haven't got any specific questions yet, although I am giving a first formal presentation on the topic by itself this coming Friday in Charlotte to a large entrepreneurial group.
Oh, that's great.
And I've given 2 lectures at a university, one both in graduate classes, one for a bioinformatics group and one for a public health service group that were PhD programs, and the professors asked me to come in and give talks on startups and on Agile, so I actually walked through and did a 2-hour lecture on each one of those. And they had a lot of questions, and it was really interesting. Most of them thought there would be no value in learning about startups or learning about Agile thinking because all they wanted was a job. And I started talking to them about, okay, let's talk about finding a job. One of the things you need to do in building a company is you need to network. How do you think you find jobs? Networking. And they said, well, one guy in the back, was going through this, started to realize, well, okay, I want to get a job in Texas. How do I find people in Texas to talk to? So I says, how many people in this room have friends in Texas? Half the class of 30 people had friends in Texas. Just start there.
I love it.
If you don't start applying what I talk about, for whether it's startup, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it is marketing, or whether it is the book, all apply to just about most assets, facets of your life. And while I try to phrase everything I do in terms of business, it applies to everything. So, when you start talking about networking works for raising money. It works for building a company. It works for finding business partners. Networking's, good for finding a job. It's crucial for finding a job. 90% of the job market's never advertised.
That's true.
There's just, if you talk about marketing, who are you? What's your product? If you're trying to find a job, your product is you. If you can't figure out the right marketing things to be able to sell yourself, then you're going to not get the kind of job that you wanted.
That's right. That's right.
So all of the stuff that goes into startup, you're the startup. You're the product. You're the one that's trying to build, and all of the things you learn can be applied to other ventures.
That's an interesting thing you just said, because I really believe, at least as now my career has progressed, maybe not as far as yours has, but of self-similarity. It's not the same, but it's similar. And you could apply a lot of things to different models if you just think about it, right?
Absolutely.
That's cool. So anyway,
that's the actual part of the process, by the way, is looking at examples and figuring out how it fits your situation.
That's right. That's right. And anyway, make sure you get this book. I mean, it's great. And, when Taffy comes out in January out here, I'm going to have him sign my book. So I appreciate that. But anyway, let's close off the interview. And I appreciate your time. I know you have a busy day ahead of you. So, that was Taffy Williams at Colonial TDC and author of the Think Agile book. You can catch him on the small business section of Examiner.com, through the Charlotte Small Business Examiner, where he writes a lot of articles about startups, entrepreneurship, and common sense in a lot of ways. So, and of course his blog. Yeah, you could catch a lot of his thinking on Startup Blog just go to the colonialtdc.com website, and you could just click on his blog, click on the Examiner articles, or even click on his pictures. So anyway, this is appreciate it. This is Greg Gloria, aka Social Greg on Twitter, for the Nerd Stalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Hey, thanks again, Taffy. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.